So we're back with another episode of Servo's RC, continuing on this ultimate XRT build, as I like to call it. In the last episode, we got the GPM steering bell crank assembly and the trio toe links. The final piece has finally arrived. So the Perfect Pass monster servo, I had ordered it and it's just been taking forever to get in. It's kind of holding me up because I got the underbody of the truck tore off and the steering linkage cover and everything, and I need to wire the servo before I can really get to everything else and button it up, put the bash bar on and everything else. So finally it has arrived, and I got the GPM standard servo mount adapter. Comes with your steering link as well as your 25 tooth horn. Everything you need for the setup. Got that at PNWRC Madness, Chris Olson. Shout out to him. Good customer service as always. So we are going to go ahead and get started on this. First step is going to kind of be to unplug your steering servo, and that's going to be channel 1 when you go to put it back. Let's see if we can get this thing pulled out. You're going to need to feed that out from underneath the swoop down tray. Alright, so we got that disconnected and should be able to flip the truck over and get it pulled out the underside. I'm going to use the stock ESC just to power up the electronics. That way we could center your servo, connect it to power. It's going to zero out. One tip on that: turn your TSM off, so that way it doesn't try to correct anything while you're working on that. Alright, so we got a couple screws that hold this stock servo in place. I don't know why I find it crazy that, you know, Traxxas, I know these are plastic geared servos. I haven't had any problems with mine, but it's a servo that's the size that seems to fit a big truck like this. But what you do to upgrade is throw a standard size servo that is tiny in comparison to the factory one, but yet a lot more powerful. So we will get these taken out. You're going to need to take off the bearing cover here as well for your servo horn. And definitely keep track of this piece in particular because you are going to be reusing it. So I'll set that over here with these screws. Alright, we should be able to pull this whole assembly out. And there goes your stock Traxxas servo. Traxxas does sell an upgraded servo. It has steel gears, but just seems like the way to go is to throw in the aftermarket standard servo. Just a lot more power. Once you upgrade your ESC as well, you can adjust your BEC voltage, so you can run it on 6, 7, or 8 volts, up the power on this thing. So get it pulled out. give you a little size comparison. Perfect Pass does come with a servo horn. You're not going to be using that. I believe it hits the drive shaft on the XRT, possibly the X-Max as well. Comes with various parts, kind of universal to hook this thing up, but definitely I recommend, I mean, Traxxas sells a plastic standard servo adapter. There's tons of them all over the internet. GPM's a good one. But here is a size reference. So you're swapping this big guy for this little one, and somehow it puts out a ton more power. So one thing you are going to need off of this is your bearing for your horn. Go ahead and set that in there. Put this to the side. Hopefully there's not a correct orientation to this. So you're going to drop it in place like so. Comes with some supplied screws. So we will use those. Put some thread locker because you're going into aluminum. Show you how this all fits in there. Mock it up. So it's going to drop in like so. Comes with a few washers, it looks like, to clamp down on that. Makes sense, there's 3 of those. Trying to match up screws here. It has a bunch of different length screws and no instructions, so see how that all fits in there. And there's 2 longer ones here, so I am going to assume that's what we're going to be using. Comes with these little recessed spacers. It also looks like that should be the right piece to go in there. So we're going to dab a little thread locker on there. Thread locker I seem to barely get any, or I get way too much. So you're going to have that little recessed spacer on there. Drop that into the spot in your servo mount there. Hopefully I chose the right screws since no instructions, but if not, we will pull them out if this seems to go way too far in there. Which that seems to be the case. So those longer ones are not going to be Okay, so we got our transmitter. I'm gonna flip this thing over real quick. Have our servo wire that we need to feed in. Goes into your channel 1. And I took some notes. Always take note, guys, where your stuff goes. So channel 2 is going to be our ESC. So I'm just going to plug the stock one back into channel 2. And get this thing flipped over, which the ESC is going to flop around. So we'll try to mitigate that as much as possible. Truck is flipped back over. I put one of these stock screws in just to hold it while I'm flipping it up and down. We'll take that back out. And connect some batteries here. So obviously the motor's not hooked up or anything like that, so we're not gonna take off the transmitter on just in case. Turn your TSM all the way down to off, or else it's going to want to correct and move your servo around. So go ahead and power it on. It should be zeroed. I'm going to take the orientation of my horn here with my link, so that way I can drop a screw in here and get that all prepped to be able to do final assembly with connecting it to the bell crank and whatnot. Alright, so with our servo zeroed, you're going to want to place this as best you can to be completely vertical. So I'm not happy with that. So there's a little insert here that bites the teeth on a servo. So the straighter you can get this, guys, the less it's going to keep you from essentially trimming your servo out to get it centered. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. And let me see if I can drop this bearing on here to get this all placed. get this into my bell crank assembly. Starting to wonder if it's actually providing power here, because I am not getting any movement. So I guess let me check my connections. Hate to have this servo flop around, but it's going to. What just came out of that? So we're not getting voltage to the servo. Looking